guys, my name is Jessica and welcome to my channel Stitchy Witch Creates, where I talk about my love for all things sewing. So I'm here today with a review of this dress, which is either a fun winter cottagecore garment or it makes me look like a crazy Victorian ghost child. One of those two things is true. But I actually really love it, and I'm so excited to show you how I made it today. The pattern I used is Burda 6265, which is a Burda envelope pattern. You can buy those at Joann Fabrics if you're in the US, and they do have the seam allowances included at 5/8 of an inch, unlike the Burda patterns that you get from the magazine or from the website. So if that's something you don't like, is having to add the seam allowances, then this would probably be a good option for you. Now I'd just like to take a closer look at some of the features and finishes of this garment and talk about what I liked and what I didn't like, so that if you're planning on making this pattern, you have some idea of what you're getting into. All right, here is a closer view of my dress. As you can see, there was an attempt made to match the collar plaid pattern to the front of the dress, and it looks pretty good, but the collar doesn't lay completely flat all the time, so sometimes it matches and sometimes it doesn't. The collar itself has a layer of interfacing, and then it is attached to the neckline using bias binding. And here is where I think the fact that I have a very thick fabric kind of hurt me. The bias binding, you can see it's very, very small. And when I attached it, I had to trim the seam allowance from attaching the collar down to basically nothing in order to get the binding to cover. And even then there's a few places where you can see it didn't cover absolutely completely, which I'm not worried about. I'm not sure though, if I made it again, I might cut my bias binding wider than the pattern says to, so that I have a little bit more room to account for the turn of the cloth. But the collar's lovely. I love the collar. It's got a nice shape. It's not too big. Really nice. And then there are two darts, which for me at least are really well situated. No problems with the darts. The sleeves actually also have a dart for elbow movement, and I love a sleeve with a dart in the elbow, because if you've got a straight sleeve, a slim fit sleeve that is in a woven, a lot of times if there's no dart, where's your elbow going to go when it moves? There's nowhere for it to go. So this is an excellent sleeve. It didn't have too much sleeve cap ease. I didn't have to remove any of that. I just eased the sleeves in normally, and that was totally fine. Let me turn it over. All right, so here you can see the back of the dress. It does have an invisible zipper and a hook and eye. So the hook and eye, I probably sewed on a little bit lower than I should have, but I was worried about this bias binding and getting anything to attach nicely to it. So I probably could have done that a little bit differently. The invisible zipper looks great, very proud of it. I sewed it in using the method I usually use, which involves a lot of basting, because you really want it to sit in there and just be really invisible so you can't see the tape, right? My seam allowances, for the most part, you can see are finished with serging. Yes, that is navy blue. I do not change my serger thread to match everything. Everything gets serged in either light gray or navy blue, and that usually works fine for everything except for white. The inside of the dress, again, is very clean. There's my waist seam, which I serged down. Again, on my serger, serge those allowances right together. I think that looks really nice. And the skirt itself is very full. It's just a rectangle, so you could lengthen it or shorten it as you wanted to. This is the length that the pattern called for. And I actually thought it would be much shorter because it's very short on the model. on the envelope, but she must be very tall because it turned out above the knees, but not really like a mini dress or anything like that on me before I attached the ruffle. So let's move up and look at the ruffle. All right, so the ruffle, love the ruffle. The ruffle, I didn't have enough fabric to cut the whole thing, so it's actually cut in 3 pieces. You can see there's a seam right there, but when it's worn, you would never ever notice that. It is half the length of the ruffle that is called for in View B. So I actually just folded the pattern piece in half and cut that ruffle, and I think that's a great length for this style of dress. It would have been basically down to the floor if it were twice this wide, but I really like this width. I'm very happy with it. The bottom of the ruffle, need to trim that. The bottom of the ruffle is finished with kind of a narrow seam. I actually serged the bottom and then turned it under twice and then top stitched it down. And hopefully that's gonna hold up really well. I'm just super pleased with the finish on this dress and how everything came out. And I definitely would make one again. Just want to look at that collar one more time because I love the collar. I think the collar is so beautiful. But yeah, definitely a great pattern. Really happy with how it came out. Love this fabric. It is so soft and it did not pill, even though I pre-washed it 3 times to try and get all the shrinking out before I used it for the dress. So really happy with everything. In conclusion, I love my dress. I have already worn it several times. It is comfortable, it is warm, it is stylish, definitely a pattern that I would recommend. If it's something that you might be interested in a sew along for, please leave a comment down below. And if you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing so you can keep up on all of my pattern reviews and sew alongs and everything that I'm making right now.